If you want to understand how to do UX right, all you have to do is understand storytelling. Now, I'm going to introduce you to something we call the hero framework, which is also based upon the Epiphany Bridge script that I heard first from Russell Brunson and later from the Hero's Two Journeys, an amazing workshop. I definitely think you should all listen to it. But here we go, let's dive in. So, in any good story, we have a hero. And a hero, he wants to achieve something. Let's say conquering a mountain. Let's draw that mountain. So now, from the point the story starts until the point it ends is the actual plot. And here are a few things we know. At about 10% of any good story, the hero hits a wall. He understands it's not going to be easy to achieve crossing that wall. What's called an oh shit moment. Before we get to that 10%, the hero is presented to us with what's called backstory, where he's presented as an appealing character that we can connect to on a surface level. We see where he lives, right? He's presented as an appealing character that either has a special power or something pretty cool about him that we can connect to. Maybe he's funny, maybe he shows some humor. But then, something that many people miss is in every good story, there's also a mentor. And the mentor shows up and throughout the entire process basically comes up with new ideas and gives our hero the plan and calls him to action to achieve what he needs to achieve. But, of course, like any good story, it's not without conflict, right? Because the path to achieving what they want to achieve is full of dangers. And then at the end of any story, there's what's called the twist. This is something that I learned from comedians that I watched and I love that gave a talk about how they write their scripts. They always have a twist at the end. So it's either the hero has a problem, then a solution comes along and then a twist, or either a hero has a problem, then there's a twist and then the solution. But the twist is there, always. It's another thing that adds a uniqueness to any given story. Now, every hero has what's called an external desire. It's what he wants to achieve, right? But there's also something that connects us on an emotional level. That's what's called the internal desire. The internal desire is what connects us emotionally to the character. Now, let's take Shrek for example, real quick. Shrek is an ogre, right? That lives in the swamp and kind of just brushes his teeth with mud, and it's kind of like it makes us laugh. It's funny, right? We get connected to him by him being portrayed as an appealing character, right? And he's like an ogre. Now we're brought to this whole cinema or the movie itself by the trailer. What is the trailer? The trailer is the highlight of all of the things that make up the plot. Imagine any trailer that you've ever seen, right? It's like, imagine the music of a trailer. Like, building tensions. Like, there once was a hero, and he lived in this area, and he had this, like, circumstances, and then he hit a wall, and then, the conflict, and you see, like, the highlights of the conflicts, like, flashes, the cinema, the theater near you. And that's the trailer. And then you get there to the actual movie, and then you sit down, and for instance in Shrek, you get connected on a surface level to this appealing character, which is an ogre. We understand Shrek is an ogre that lives alone in a swamp, wants to be left alone, nobody accepts him. One day wakes up in his swamp, gets out of his hut, where he sees the entire Grimm Brothers characters in his swamp, and he's like, Snow White and all those, and Seven Dwarfs and all those characters. And he's like, hey, what the heck are you guys doing here? And they say, the king expelled us from the kingdom and sent us here. So Shrek's like, okay, so I'm going to head on over to the king and get a permit to kick y'all out. And then Shrek heads on to the king. And at about 10%, 15% of the movie, he gets to the king, and now he understands he hit a wall. Why? Because it's not going to be easy to achieve that permit. Now the king sends them off to save a princess from a dragon in the castle and all that stuff. So everything, like, the whole plot begins, the whole journey, the conflicts begin. Now we understand from that, we understand Shrek's external desire. His external desire was to clear his swamp, right? He wanted to be left alone and to clear his swamp. That was the external desire. So let me ask you this question. Number one, who's Shrek's mentor? That's right, Donkey. Donkey helps Shrek along the way in any given conflict, brings up ideas, and helps him solve it. And now, the big question, what's Shrek's internal desire? Notice that we're not ogres. None of us really wanted to be left alone. Like a lot of us talk about being wanting, like a lot of us talk about wanting to be left alone, but we don't really want that. Shrek's internal desire comes down to something that we all have, a desire we all own, which is he just wanted to be accepted for who he was. He wanted to be loved for who he was. And so you see, we got to the cinema by the trailer that sold us the external desire and highlights of the conflict. We connected on a surface level to Shrek or to any given character by this like surface level external desire and backstory. But at the moment it clicked for us, and it's only hinted upon, it's never talked about in any movie. The internal desire is not talked about, it's only hinted upon. But once that clicks in our subconscious minds, we get the hint, we understand it, and then the main hero's essence gets engraved in our hearts forever. Any great movie is like that. Don't get me started about The Lion King as well, alright? Because I can talk for hours about The Lion King. Hint, there's 2 hero journeys inside The Lion King. Go find out what those were. Another hint, he sings about his external desire at the beginning of the movie. Now, how do most companies get it wrong? Most companies, when they come out to the market, what they do is they basically try to present themselves as the heroes that come to save the day for their users. But we do it the other way around. We're going to frame ourselves as the mentors. And the mentors that are coming to basically understand their users or their heroes. So all we need to do now is understand who is our user. And out of all of our users or our heroes, who is the main hero? Because in any given plot, there's the main hero and the secondary heroes. And then we need to understand what's their backstory and what is their external and also internal desire. In marketing, it's called jobs to be done. And then what is the wall that they hit and how do they cross it today without us in their world? Because every user has the problem and then it crosses the wall somehow. But it's a process of a lot of pain and suffering. That's what we want to stop, right? And sometimes the thing that we find out is that actually they cross the wall, they don't even recognize there is a wall. They're so used to the status quo that they don't even know there's a wall. That's something that we have to address sometimes when we get to that point. And then what we want to do is we want to formulate a plan. We want to be creative and work with many solutions that are out there, best practices and amazing designs and products that have already been created in order to form the perfect plan. And only then can we actually formulate the plan and think about the entire way, what's our twist? Because with this plan, we're going to help them achieve what they wanted to achieve. When we build this plan, we're writing it as a dialogue between us and the hero. And we're also trying to identify conflicts and solve it with features along the way. And then we help them achieve what they want to achieve, but also help them achieve that internal transformation that happens with any given story. Basically, this is the hero framework. Now, we obviously have a lot more to cover, and I have a lot to show you around what this framework actually is on the timeline and how do we actually get to understanding what screens we need to design and everything like that. But if you understand user experience. And now you can take whatever product you're working on and be way more user-centric and think about your users as the heroes. And think about every brief you get. Who is the main hero here? Because for every brief that you get, there's a different hero. I bet that. Uber and Lyft and Get Taxi here in Israel and a lot of different companies like that, they focused on the passengers, focus on 2 different entities. And they built the app only for the passengers, not for the drivers yet. Only later did they build the app for the drivers. Same about any company. Big companies that we work with, for instance like Fiverr, when we ran a workshop following the hero framework, we had to understand who the main hero is. And that was a hard conversation to have, but we needed to make decisions. Once we made those decisions, the results were amazing. I can't tell you more than that, but they're amazing. So the method works. For every given brief, you can pass it along this framework and come out the other end with a result. It's also a way to recognize product market fit. It's also a way to understand the emotional triggers of your heroes, right? The internal desires. Once we get to connect to the internal desires of any user, any hero, we get emotional stickiness, we get retention, right? And we get virality with our app. And we've seen this in action. So I hope you take something out of this. If you have, put it in the comments. What is something new or something that you're going to put emphasis on from now on, or something that was new for you, or something that was revolutionary for you? Please write it in the comments right now. I would love to hear. Don't forget to also subscribe and like. And if you want to have one of these workshops in your company, feel free to reach out and we can talk about that opportunity. All right, guys. See you in the next one. Cheers.